I've been making chocolate chip cookies for 52 years, and I never really thought about modifying the recipe till about 10-15 years ago. I've come up with what I think is, to me, a little tastier chocolate chip cookie that stays moist longer. It's basically the original Toll House cookie recipe, but I've made a few changes. We start with the 2 cups of butter, and I prefer to use butter over shortening. If you use shortening, they'll stay moister longer, but then they taste like they're made out of shortening. If you use butter, they tend to taste better but get hard after a short time, and also they tend to come out flatter. So we'll just get this started. Okay, so our 2 cups of butter are creamed. Now we need, it says 3/4 cup of sugar, of white sugar, and 3/4 cup brown sugar. And this is where I make a little bit of a change. I put in the 3/4 cup white sugar. And then, since I have this golden brown sugar, I prefer dark sugar, but put in a 1/2 cup instead of 3/4. And then the big change would be a little less than a 1/4 cup of molasses. And what the molasses does is it gives it a little more flavor, like you would get if you use dark brown sugar, which is what they originally made this recipe out of, was a darker brown sugar. And also the molasses helps it stay moist longer. So we're going to blend that in. And it doesn't taste as heavy like a ginger or a molasses crinkle would. It still tastes like give that a quick scrape. Now, when I was in college and didn't have any money and didn't have any cooking utensils, I used to make chocolate chip cookies with just a bowl and a fork. And no scrapers, no nothing. And managed to make them that way. And I think I even put them on aluminum foil to cook, because I didn't have any baking supplies. Okay, next we're going to add 2 eggs. I always like to crack them into a container first, so that if you get an eggshell, it's easier to pull it out. Plus, if you raise your own eggs, you can always check them before you pour it in. So 2 eggs, and then it also gets a teaspoon of vanilla. And I like vanilla, so I add just a smidgen more than a teaspoon. It's about a teaspoon and a half. Put in here. I find letting this whip a little longer, stirring a little longer, will make the cookies a little smoother as well. I'll do another scraping. That's starting to look pretty good now. You want to make sure that it's not grainy at all. Okay, Now here's the other change I make. Is I put in 3 cups of flour, not 2 1/4. And I find that this makes them stand up a little better so they don't come out really flat. And modern day flour you don't have to sift. It's got all the stuff in it to make it not clump together. And then we need a teaspoon of baking soda, not baking powder. I'm going to have to pulse this, keep it from flying out. Okay, another scraping. Hand on the camera. Alright, that's mixed up good. And I scrape off the beaters. Now, before I add the chocolate chips, I want to clean off the beaters. And I never use the beaters to mix in the chocolate chips because it breaks them up. Now, if you like, a smaller chocolate chip or something in your chocolate chip cookie, then be my guest and use the beaters to mix them in, but it tends to smush them against the side. Okay, I'll set that aside. And now we need 2 cups of chocolate chips. Now, if it came out fairly well, the dough should barely stick to the chocolate chips. If it looks too runny, then you didn't have enough flour. Now, when I put the cookies onto the tray, I just use my hands and drop them onto the tray. Try not and smush them onto the tray. If you scrape them onto the tray, you tend to end up with burnt edges on your cookies. And make them as big or as little as you want. Doesn't really matter. Now, if you have a problem with the bottom of your cookies burning before the top gets done, that's an issue with your oven. And it's caused by usually ovens that aren't sealed very well, and the bottom element comes on too often, and the infrared heat is absorbed by the bottom of the pan, which makes the bottom of the pan actually hotter than the interior of the oven and will burn your cookies. So a way to prevent that, other than buying a nice convection oven, is to put a sheet of aluminum foil on the tray underneath, or the rack underneath your rack that has the cookies on it. And what will happen there is the aluminum foil will reflect the extra infrared heat from the element in the bottom and prevent it from being absorbed into the bottom of your cookie tray and getting the bottoms burnt. And these are my own cookie trays that I made. I got some scrap stainless steel, and unfortunately it's really thick. They weigh almost 6-7 pounds each, but they're really nice. Okay, I'm going to do the other tray off camera. As I said, if you have a problem with the bottoms of your cookies burning, what you would do is just take a piece of aluminum foil, stick it on this shelf, and then put your cookies in this shelf. Since I have a convection oven, I don't have to worry about it, so I'll just leave it like that. Okay, temperature's up to, the oven is up to temperature. Slide those in. I'll set it for the timer for 10 minutes. It usually takes 11, but I like to look at them after 10, make sure I don't get them too burnt. Okay, that was 10 minutes. Ooh, they're perfect. I'm glad I didn't go to 11. Alright, so now what I do is I let them cool for about 5 minutes on the trays. These trays, like I said, are really thick, and it helps them stabilize a little bit before I take them off. If you take them off right away, sometimes they tend to smush. So leave them on there for a few minutes and then put them on the cooling racks.